Hey guys, welcome back to MWG Garage. Today I have a Polaris Scrambler 400 engine that has been blown, and I'm going to try and take it apart and salvage what I can off of this engine. Stay tuned. Now before I start disassembling this engine, I have grabbed myself a parts bin so I can put my parts like nuts and bolts into it so I don't lose them. And I've already grabbed some of my tools that I will need to take this engine apart because I've been through it once before, but I'm going back through it again just to reevaluate the whole engine situation. So the first thing I'm going to start off doing is removing the pull start off of the engine, and the bolts that are on here are a 10mm size bolt. And when I'm looking at this, I can see the previous person has gone through this and only have left five bolts left on it, so I can't really say what's going to be inside of it or not. Make sure your tool's going the right way too. I'll be back with you once I get all these off. As I'm getting this last bolt out, we can get a look inside of the pull start interior. And the pull start itself sits on two dowel pins inside the engine block, and let's see if they'll want to let it go. Indeed, it did let it go. And that's what the inside of the pull start looks like. That shouldn't have happened. So I already know that I will need a new pull start for this, and bolts in the parts tray. Now that the pull start is off, we can see the flywheel inside of the engine, and you can see that there's supposed to be a nut that holds the flywheel on, but as you can see, it's not there. So I can, maybe not with one hand, let me set you down. I can do this. Maybe. Held on with magnets on the inside, but there should be a nut there. No clue where that nut has gone, but it's not there. Now, since that is off, we can see inside where the flywheel was, there are coils in here which follow these wires all the way down there to send spark to the spark plug, and there's a water pump inside here which sucks water through the engine and comes out there. So it's a water-cooled engine, believe it or not. So to get this cover off, there are 5 bolts that hold it on. So I am going to remove all those 5 bolts, and there's one mismatched one because the previous owner was inside here, so this one's not the same size, but all the others are a size 12. Make it focus. It's a size 12mm. So I'll come back when I get all 5 of those out. So I got all 5 of those bolts out, so I'm ready to take this off. This does not have any sort of dowel pin for it to set in, I don't think. So let me get you set down so I can get this off. No, not one to give it up. Pull it some. It's almost out. Give some persuasion. Oh boy, this is really stuck, ain't it? I'll come back to you when I get it off. Well, it took a lot of persuasion, but it finally came. And, well, there's the inside. That's the water pump mechanism, which is missing. Well, let me just see how much comes off, because it shouldn't do that, but it is for some reason. Finger out of the camera. It's not looking too great for this. Well, I don't think that's supposed to come out. So, there's all the internal stuff. That can finally move. So, well, let me get it sitting upright and we can continue venturing on. So I got the engine sitting up right now, so I'm going to take these 4 bolts off to be able to get this jug off, which is what this is called. Don't know why they called it a jug, but they did. So let me get those 4 bolts off. And I put some gloves on so I don't get any metal shavings in my fingers. One. Two. Three. And number 4. So now I'm going to get all these out, put them in my parts tray so I don't lose them. I have to remember which one goes where because they're not all the same length. Now I came and saw when I was taking those bolts out, there are these things holding on the jug as well. Which those are a 9/16. So I'll come back to you when I get all those off. As you can see, I was successful on getting the jug off by taking 4 of these off. And when they go back on, it doesn't really matter where they go since they are all the exact same size. Just remember to get them down tight. So now, we can see that when the piston moves, it moves still pretty decent. So I'm hoping when I take it apart, I can make it salvageable still. You see it was being oiled while it was still running, so we don't know why it blew like it did. So that's why I'm dissecting it to see what happens, or see why that happened. I've now figured out how to split the block in half, because it is a 2-piece block. You can't really see because of all the dirt. But there is bolts here, 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 and down there. And you have to keep track of which bolt goes where, because this long bolt came from right there. And one goes in there. One goes there. And one goes there. I've been mistaken. That is not a bolt hole from my understanding, but I can put a bolt in there and see what happens. Nope. It's not a bolt hole, so there's only 4 bolts that hold this block together. So I'm now going to see if I can take this block apart without killing myself or the engine. So, let's see what happens. So, unscrew the rest of these I just put back in. But like I said, remember which bolts go where. These bolts look pretty new. Or they've been cleaned because they've never been taken out of their bore before. Don't know. Parts bin, they going. So let me see what happens if I try and start hammering on it, if you will. See what happens. Let me get my glove back on. Oh, I'm an idiot. There's engine mounts holding it together still, so I have to get an engine mount taken off. Let's see what size that is. A lot bigger than a 1/2 inch. Let's see if it's 9/16, which it looks like it's going to be. Which it is. So I'm gonna get a 9/16 socket. Now these bolts are really tight in there, so I have to get my biggest wrench that I have. Watch it fly. I'll come back to you. Got that motor mount off because I had to bring in the power tools finally, but I got one cracked off with the whatever drive this is, I don't know. And I had to finish it off with this because they were torqued on there so tight. I don't think they've ever come off. Look how corroded those points are. The one that's not corroded on the right is probably the one I was able to crack off without an issue. So this engine is about to come apart. Now that I have everything apart, let's see what I can do, shall we? Nope, don't fall down there, boy. Just sit you in your stand. There you go. Alright. Let me get my glove back on. I have to take my glove off every time I start the camera up, so we deal with in this world. So, not trying to break the block, so I'm not really wanting to really let's see here. Come on. I'm gonna go grab a screwdriver and see if I can maybe pry it apart without breaking the block anymore. Well, I'm trying not to damage the parts inside the block, so I could probably do whatever I want to this one. So let me just... Got a crowbar, or a big screwdriver. Not working out like I thought it would. I'll be back. So I got the block mostly apart. I had to use a chisel and beat the crap out of it and going down the side like that. If you're trying to reuse your block, don't do what I did. try and find another way, but since this block is broken, there's not much else I can break on it, so I got that all figured out, and it still moves. So, I'm gonna try and see if I can get it off the rest of the way without doing much more harm to it. So, I'll come back when I get it fully apart. I got the other half of the engine block off with some persuasion, if you will. And I figured out that this nut is reverse thread. This nut holds on the crank. So after I unscrew this nut, I hate having to remember it is reverse thread. This should let... Okay. That is off. Remember that black part went onto these bearings. So, how do I get these? So now I'm gonna have to figure out how to get all these other bearings out, which I could... So I just figured out. Kind of. Remember that's ball bearings inside there. I don't know what kind of bearing that is. There's that. Then you get this one out. Use a pair of pliers and get it out. Let me put you back up in the stand. Or I could use this. See if it pries out by some persuasion. I'll come back when I get that close. I was finally able to get the crank out of the block. Sorry I didn't get it on camera, but I didn't happen to think about it while I was doing it. But so what I did was I basically just started beating on the casing. Yeah, I started beating on this casing, so it just hit this bearing. And it started pushing that bearing out, but it finally gave way, and the crank finally came out in pretty decent condition, I think. So I have a reusable crank, I know for sure. And this is reusable for my knowledge. And so is the jug. So, with that, I'm going to sign off. Saying thanks for watching, and I'll keep you posted on this engine.